Do you ever hear people talking about their side hustles and think, why not me? Well, what's stopping you? We worked with HubSpot to create a database of 100 side hustle ideas that you can start now. Everything from design and real estate to public speaking and wellness. There's something in there for everyone. Plus, we cover the skills you need and the investment you'll probably have to make to get started. Ready to break out of your 9 to 5? Go to HubSpot.com/THDS to download for free.
Good morning, everybody. Today's Tuesday, December 17th. I'm John Weigell with Sara Friedman, and this is the Hustle Daily Show. Americans love cookies, and I am unfortunately no exception to that rule, but there's one particular company that's been running away with the cookie economy. Crumbl, that's C-R-U-M-B-L, got its start in 2017 and now earns billions of dollars every single year. So what made Crumbl so profitable? It has a lot to do with TikTok, there's a hint. We'll get to that in a bit though, but first let's give you the news in business and tech. All right, we're starting off with Temu today. The Chinese shopping app was the most downloaded free app in the United States for the second year in a row, according to data from Apple's App Store, and according to my text messages that I get filled with Temu recruiters all the time. The app surpassed TikTok last year to take the number one spot, though. Moving to Europe, the EU just signed off on a sovereign constellation of internet satellites, which is a lot of big words. The $11.1 billion deal will no doubt rival that of Elon Musk's Starlink, though. That is when the 300 satellites planned officially start operating by 2030. Until then, Starlink will no doubt continue to make more deals as it has with Royal Caribbean and T-Mobile, so time is of the essence for the EU. Speaking of Royal Caribbean, we hop to the cruise industry, which has come out of their COVID crisis reaching new heights as of late, as reported by Wall Street Journal. Carnival Cruise Line, for example, had customer deposits reach a record $6.8 billion at the end of the third quarter, which is almost 40% more than what it held at the same period 5 years ago. Meanwhile, stock for Royal Caribbean is at an all-time high. You should take a look at it. It is absolutely nuts. All right, next over to Starbucks. It's not all doom and gloom over there at Starbucks. We know new CEO Brian Niccol is a fan of return to office policies for his office workers, but on the other hand, he has just announced an extension to the company's paid parental leave for baristas. They'll expand 6 paid weeks to 18 starting in March 2025. That's pretty good. And finally, TikTok's annual carbon footprint may be larger than the entire country of Greece, per a report that found the average user spends 45.5 minutes per day scrolling, generating in 1 year greenhouse gas emissions equivalent to driving 123 miles in a gas-powered vehicle. Now, Sara, I feel like we've talked about these sorts of problems before with talking about AI and how much power it takes to generate that. What do you make of this TikTok news?
Yeah, I think the first frightening part of this news is that I think I do spend at least 45.5 minutes a day scrolling on TikTok, if not more. So that's its own problem. But then, yeah, it's obviously pretty upsetting how social media can impact the environment. In this report, TikTok users have the second highest emissions per minute of use following YouTube users.
Wow.
And TikTok is also the least transparent when it comes to carbon emissions. So Meta and Google release reports each year while TikTok has no publicly available data. So I think especially as we're increasingly talking about the looming TikTok ban, this is just another angle to keep in mind.
Yeah, I would hate to see the data bills. If there was no unlimited data today, I'm sure people would be scrolling a lot less. But every time I go to my data on cellular, it says like how much data you have used this month. And it always just frightens me. So I try not to open it as much as possible.
Yeah, it's a little terrifying.
Hey everybody, it's your host, John Weigell. If you love the insights HubSpot brings to your podcast feed, then you're going to love Marketplace Tech. This daily podcast keeps you up to speed about the latest in tech news and what it all means for the economy. With stories about AI regulation, the fight against misinformation, and the latest in crypto, Marketplace Tech is essential listening to understand the business behind innovation. Listen to Marketplace Tech wherever you get your podcasts.
Okay, on to our main story today. Today, we're figuring out how the cookie crumbles. Crumbl has been active since 2017, but the 2020s have brought in a wave of popularity and big sales for them. So Sarah, before we get into, how much dough they're bringing in, there's another pun for you. Can you give me an overview just about what crumble is? Because I'm kind of new to it myself, actually.
Yeah, if you're familiar with Insomnia cookies, perhaps this is another cookie chain. Yes, that's very well known and common. So Insomnia cookies is purple and Crumble cookies is pink as far as their branding goes. And they have just much more of a millennial Gen Z vibe. And they are massive, pretty expensive cookies. They drop new flavors every week. You might have already seen them all over social media because they have 9.6 million followers on TikTok.
Wow.
And it all started as just a single store in Utah in 2017 and has since ballooned into more than 1,000 franchise-owned locations in the US and 18 in Canada, 96% of which have opened since 2020. So it is very rapidly expanding.
Wow, it really picked up steam, especially after the first 3 years. Have you ever been to a Crumble, had one of the cookies? What did you think about it?
I have not, only because genuinely the lines are usually so long and people are standing outside and taking photos with the cookies, and I'm just not willing to wait. But yeah, they're very in demand, very popular. You can't miss it if you've walked past one. Between the branding and kind of the swarms of teenage girls outside, they really, I think, make themselves known usually.
Maybe I should look out for it more because, we did that story that you wrote on Bon Bon a while ago. And since realizing that I had one kind of near me, I walk by it and just see lines of people now. And I'm like, oh, that's what that's for. Okay. And so maybe I just have to see a little clearly on this Crumble thing.
Right.
But how is their performance as a company? It seems like they're blowing up on social media. People are loving it and people are sharing a lot of their content. But what does their revenue look like?
It's looking really good. So Crumble's franchisees generate more than $1 billion in annual sales. In 2022, it sold more than 300 million cookies. The average Crumble shop earned about $1.2 million in revenue in 2023, with profits around $123,000. And Crumble itself posted a net income of nearly $31 million on $122 million of revenue last year. So these are some serious numbers for what started as literally just a single cookie shop.
Okay. As we talked about before, it sounds like they're expanding quite rapidly. So who is their major market that they're going for? I know you mentioned millennials, Gen Zs are more attracted to them, but is there more demographic data?
Yeah, so women in particular are drawn to this brand. 65% of its customers are female, and then particularly that teen and tween demographic. Young girls are just really spellbound by this brand. I think it's a combination of things. One is they are kind of taking on the drop model, which is popular in the fashion space. So they release a weekly menu change and limited edition cookie flavors that, you get them while they're there and then they're gone forever. So that kind of supercharges their power on social because it's very shareable. People want other people to know that they got the limited edition drop. The pale pink of their cookie boxes, it was actually developed in partnership with the Pantone Color Institute. So this is really carefully formulated branding. It's not an accident. It's a really specific shade of pink just for Crumble. And yeah, we talk about teens on social media all the time. And with 15 to 16% of teens using YouTube or TikTok, quote, almost constantly, that was according to Pew, Crumble's kind of the perfect place to be supercharging their business on social. This is creating a very powerful flywheel, I think, for them and is clearly driving profits.
Yeah, I mean, it makes a lot of sense. I feel like a brand that is so bent on like social media marketing and being present and kind of being in touch. I would be interested to hear their CMO's strategy on how they operate or whoever's running the marketing over there, especially on social media. But something that stood out to me was the cookie drops of like the new flavors, because I know other brands have done that as well. And it's done really, really well for them. I'm just curious to like how many possible flavors could you have when talking about cookies? Maybe I'm just so close-minded on this, but I just don't know how many you can have.
They are definitely pushing the limits here. I mean, some of them, the word cookie, they're using it kind of loosely. Like I've seen things that are, to me, bordering more on a pie or a brownie
Interesting.
that are served in like tins. Yeah. So we're pushing the envelope there, but they're very serious about the new flavors. The company said that developing new cookie flavors can take 3 months to a year. And each new flavor goes through 5 or 6 iterations and is tested in about 50 stores before it's even launched. So they're taking their time with every flavor that they put out there. And I think that's why so many of them are a hit. Although there have apparently been a few that have flopped, namely a bubblegum flavored cookie they said didn't do very well. And the franchisees ended up with kind of piles of Hubba Bubba left over, which sounds about right to me because that sounds a little bit gross.
If you had to have a stash of anything, I mean, not bad, I guess.
Right. Could be worse.
And there seems to be kind of a lot of extremes today in food. And what I mean by that is things that are being engineered to be healthier for people, or like, a cookie that maybe is a lot healthier and has no sugar but tastes like it does, versus like Bonbon, which is just like going crazy with like, oh, it's just candy. Like, we're not apologizing about it. It's just like really unhealthy, but you love it. What about Crumble? What kind of category would you put them in?
Yeah. So the Wall Street Journal was reporting on this with the angle that teens love these cookies and parents hate them because they're so incredibly unhealthy.
Oh.
So to just put it in perspective, their classic milk chocolate chip cookie has 730 calories.
Wow.
That's more than a Big Mac and 47 grams of sugar. So I think parents are in a little bit of a predicament here if this is kind of the cool new thing to be getting at school and to keep up with your classmates. But it has, more calories than a full meal. So yeah, it's a little extreme, as you said, and maybe not ideal for your teenager. But yeah, we see, detrimental trends all the time on social. And this is slightly more innocent than some we've talked about in the past, maybe just not nutritionally a great decision. Although they do have miniature cookies, which might be better.
Oh, that's nice. That's a good pivot. Yeah, I mean, there's always going to be something that kids are going to want like that. Like, I don't know. I mean, what's worse, like one Crumble cookie or me in 5th grade crushing 7 Kool-Aid jammers in a row? Who knows? Who really knows what could be worse for you?
Right. We came of age with Gushers, so it's hard to say.
Yeah, very hard to say. I think they're still in our bodies, actually. So.
Probably.
All right, that's going to do it for us today. Thanks, everybody, for tuning into the Hustle Daily Show. We're a proud part of the HubSpot Podcast Network. Our editor is Robert Hartwig. Our executive producer is Darren Clark. We've got a ton more tech and business coverage in our newsletter. Go get subscribed at thehustle.co/email and follow us on Instagram at The Hustle Daily. We'll see you tomorrow, everybody.